Welcome to Doctor's House Call. This is your chance to get in gear with Dr. Gear, a duly trained naturopathic medicine doctor and doctor of chiropractic, board certified in family medicine and minor surgery. Brought to you by Payson Health and Wellness Center at 801 East Highway 260 every Tuesday afternoon from 5 to 6, live on KMOG. You can call in now and speak to the doctor at 474-2427 with any questions, or after the show, call Dr. Gear during regular office hours, 474-7409.
Good evening, Mike Farrell here with you, and welcome and good evening to Dr. Gear.
Hello, Mike, and hello everybody out there in Radio Land.
And Dr. Wyrick.
Hello, hello.
Good evening. And to you, I want to remind you that you can call in and talk to the doctors, 474-2427, anytime if you got a question. Topic tonight, brain and mental health breakthroughs. And if you're suffering from depression or dementia, you can treat the symptoms or fix the cause. What do you think Dr. Gear would rather do?
Well, I'll tell you. You know, you can ride your horse, Mike, hard until it drops in exhausted death in 100 miles. Or you can nurture it, and it'll carry you 100,000 miles before it drops from natural death. How have you been treating the body you were given for your life in this earth? If you struggle with a constant lack of energy, you may have a problem deep within your cells. Don't get me wrong. Occasional low energy from a taxing day or a rough night's sleep is fine. But if you don't come bouncing back to your robust, energetic self the following day, the answer might not be as simple as loading up on more fuel. That is, calories in and calories out, or caffeine in and then more stimulants. Think of a car for a second. Yeah, your car needs gas to run, but that's not all it needs. Your vehicle also requires oil, antifreeze, regular tune-ups, and a responsible driver. That's you. This is surprisingly similar to how our body's energy system works.
Well, yeah. Our cell's energy factory, or power plant, is called the mitochondria. One important purpose of mitochondria is to produce adenosine triphosphate, more commonly called ATP, which is like the gas that fuels our bodies. Without ATP, we feel drained and useless. Other functions of mitochondria include the regulation of stem cells, which are in the news a lot for regenerating the body. Mitochondria also participate in what's called programmed cell death of damaged cells. Fancy word for that is apoptosis. It also helps regulate the innate immunity of our bodies to viruses and bacteria, and it regulates the calcium balance necessary for heart function. The mitochondria also contain many different enzymes called cytokine P450 enzymes that are important for the body's detoxification process, especially in the liver.
So now, many variables affect your mitochondria function. Genetics, that's what you were born with, specific nutrients and enzymes, as well as spinal health, to name a few. If the brain's mitochondria aren't healthy, then the brain doesn't work right, or last as long as it could or should. Shrinking of the brain means loss of function. That means cognitive decline, dementia, and maybe Alzheimer's disease.
Yes, some of the nutrients that we need for a healthy mitochondria include some vitamins. Vitamin C, vitamins B2, B3, and B5. These are water-soluble vitamins, and they should be consumed every day because they're rapidly washed out of the blood in the urine. And then we have minerals, selenium, zinc, and iron. These essential minerals are toxic if too much are taken. So you need to talk to us to make sure that you are getting enough, but not too much of these nutrients. Then there's something called carnitine. As the name suggests, The main source of this nutrient is meat. The word carnitine comes from the root word in Latin and Spanish, carne. This nutrient is necessary for the mitochondria to burn fat. So if you're having trouble burning fat, maybe you need more carnitine. Then there's ribose, which is a special sugar needed to make ATP in the mitochondria. There's CoQ10. This is important. It's normally made in the body, but people taking drugs like statin drugs to reduce cholesterol also reduce the amount of CoQ10 made in the body, and the body may need a supplement then. Magnesium. Many people in the United States are deficient in magnesium because of our food processing. Some depletes the food of a lot of magnesium.
Dr. Wyrick, next week we're going to go through all of the magnesiums item by item so that people know what kind of magnesium they should be getting in their bodies to make their brains work better.
Absolutely. And then we have alpha-lipoic acid. This is a special antioxidant that has one end that is soluble in water and the other end that's soluble in fats. So compare this with carotenes, which we'll talk about later, which are soluble only in fat, and vitamin C, which is soluble only in water. So alpha-lipoic acid is a bridge between the two. And then we need healthy fats, omega-3 fats found in fish, olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil. Those are all healthy fats. Omega-6 fats, on the other hand, are not healthy.
You know, we just did an IgG test on a man. He hasn't gotten the report yet, but he had 26 foods that he made antibodies, IgG antibodies toward. And that one of them was coconut. Another one was, 26 different things. Wheat, brewer's yeast, baker's yeast. He had a whole bunch of things. And you know, he's been suffering from rheumatoid arthritis-like symptoms that he was told were maturity onset. In reality, he's suffering from inflammation of his intestinal tract and of his body due to his inability to properly digest proteins. So, getting back to what we're talking about here, you read more about mitochondria in the multimedia archive for this show on drwyrick.com. Simply choose Multimedia Archive on his website from the menu at the top of the page, and then choose today's show date. You can also get it on KMOGcountry.com.
Well, I have additional printed information links on the website that KMOG Country doesn't include, so both are important.
So another huge factor is our external environment with the mitochondria. Oxidative stress from pollution, alcohol, and other chemicals found in your daily life can decimate mitochondria, which hampers brain function and lowers your overall quality of life. So it makes sense that the first thing you want to do is calm any inflammation caused by this oxidative stress. But how do you do it?
Well, the answer to this fatigue caused by cellular damage is proper nutrition, including antioxidants. Now, there are many kinds of antioxidants. A colorful diet full of leafy vegetables, fruits, roots, herbs, and spices will load you up with many kinds of antioxidants that act as armor for your cells. The antioxidant alpha-lipoic acid, which we talked about, is found in some veggies and roots, but also in organ meats like liver. And the best source for the antioxidant selenium is Brazil nuts. Not only that, but antioxidants and selenium support mitochondrial biogenesis, that is, making new mitochondria. The process that is critically important if we want to have healthy mitochondria. And by the way, if your thyroid is not working right, you won't make enough mitochondria either. And I have a special interest in thyroid function. The more mitochondria you have, the less overworked they will be, and the more you can support your body's optimal level of energy production. In addition to a rich, healthy diet, you can also give yourself a boost of antioxidants in a convenient supplement form. Think of supplemental antioxidants as nutritional insurance. Stay tuned for the scientific explanation of how our muscle testing with applied kinesiology really works.
Yeah, you'll get that next week. So proper nutrition helps to restore your energy levels to where they should be, on top of the energy problem. When you support your mitochondria by giving them what they need, antioxidants, and removing what they don't, unnecessary toxins, you can calm inflammation, support healthy energy production, and combat age-related energy loss. Our free S3 test gives us a wonderful peek into your body's antioxidant bank account by telling us the number of carotenoid molecules in a tiny area of skin cells. This test equipment was developed by the University of Utah Science Department.
Yes, a visual example of free radical damage is an apple cut into halves. You can take one half of the apple and just expose it to the air. The other half you can squirt some lemon juice on and then expose that also to the air. The half with no lemon juice will turn brown much faster, which shows accelerated free radical damage. On the other hand, the apple with the lemon juice does not turn brown as fast because lemons are a good source of antioxidants. This shows how antioxidants can protect the exposed surface of the apple from excessive free radical damage. Antioxidants are your first defense against free radicals. They freely share their electrons and stop the degenerative chain reaction of free radicals. Our bodies naturally generate some antioxidants, and certain foods are also containing antioxidants. However, new research shows additional sources of antioxidants may provide added protection against a growing onslaught of free radical invaders. Each day, we are exposed to free radicals, unstable molecules that steal or scavenge electrons from other molecules, damaging the other molecules. Many of the physical effects we call aging are the result of free radical damage in a way very similar to the way a car will rust out. And no matter how healthy you try to be, you receive free radical damage every single day.
So exposure to free radical activity is a natural part of life. But in today's healthy, stressful, and hectic world, it's possible to become overexposed and experience greater consequences of free radical damage. Environmental pollution, unbalanced diet, preservatives, and additives in food, excessive body fat due to inactivity, mental stress, and even breathing create free radicals in your body. When left unchecked, free radical damage to your cells accumulating can lead to serious health concerns later in life. In fact, free radical damage can cause premature aging and is a large factor in the deterioration of health over time. To protect yourself from free radicals at any age, you should develop and maintain a healthy lifestyle. You can limit your exposure to free radicals by doing the following. Avoid pollution and other toxins. Do not smoke and avoid secondhand smoke. Boy, I'll tell you, when I smoked, it was terrible. 3 packs a day. When I quit, I ran the other way anytime anybody lit a cigarette. I didn't want any of that secondhand smoke. That was a long time ago. It's more than half a lifetime ago now. Limit your exposure to the sun and use sunblock. I wish I'd have done that more on my arms because the backs of my arms, my forearms, it really shows a lot of sun damage. Eat a balanced diet. That's a really important thing. Consume at least 5 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables each day. That's part of a balanced diet. Choose a variety of deeply colored fruits and vegetables. deep red, yellow, orange, purple, blue, and green. Wow, that's the whole rainbow, isn't it? Typically indicate higher antioxidant content. Dr. Wyrick, what are carotenoids?
Well, carotenoids are an important category of antioxidants. They are primarily responsible, as you said, for the reds, oranges, and yellow that we see in fruits and vegetables. In our bodies, the other non-carotenoid antioxidants rely in part on carotenoids to defend and replenish themselves so that they can continue their cell protective work. Therefore, a high level of carotenoids in the antioxidant defense network suggests that there are also high levels of other antioxidants. Research suggests that the skin carotenoid levels measured with the Pharmanex biophotomic scanner, which we affectionately call the S3, much easier to say, will correlate with and are surrogate markers for the body's overall antioxidant defense system.
So everyone should take a well-formulated nutritional supplement with nutrients and amounts and varieties as would be found in a balanced diet. One way to evaluate whether your food and supplements are providing adequate antioxidants is to use the S3 test, the Pharmanex biophotonic scanner. We, Drs. Wyrick and myself, at Payson Health and Wellness Center, utilize the S3 machine to determine your carotenoid antioxidant status, which then correlates with whether your diet and supplements are adequately protecting you.
Well, yeah, there are 5 factors that influence the level of carotenoids in your body. Number 1, your diet. Typically, people who have more than 5 servings of deeply colored fruits and vegetables will have higher S3 carotenoid scores. And if your diet isn't enough, number 2, supplementation. Typically, people who consume well-formulated nutritional supplements containing phytonutrient antioxidants, phyto meaning just plant nutrients, such as green powdered drinks, have higher S3 carotenoid scores. And then we have your body fat. People who have a high percentage of body fat typically have lower scores. But that's because carotenoids are fat soluble, and the more fat there is, the more the carotenoids are distributed into fat in other parts of the body rather than your hand. So in that case, you might have a falsely low impression of your total antioxidant status, but it's still a useful test. And then we have your lifestyle. High levels of oxidative stress and exposure to free radicals will decrease your antioxidant levels. As we talked about, tobacco smoke, stress, pollution, toxins are common sources of free radicals. Sunlight is a mixed bag, a double-edged sword. It is necessary to make vitamin D, but as Dr. Geer talked about, too much sun exposure can increase free radical damage to the skin. And lastly, we have your genes. Individual differences in body's predetermined ability to absorb carotenoids and other nutrients will impact your skin carotenoid score. Your genes can also affect the body's absorption and use of other nutrients as well.
So if you can't measure it, it is not science. Guesswork is never part of the equation at Payson Health and Wellness Center. Every aspect of Payson Health and Wellness Center is deeply rooted to the science of better health and supporting your efforts to lead a life full of vitality. You remember Vitalis? It was a hairdressing from back when Mike and you and I were kids.
Yes, I remember Brill Cream more, but I remember Vitalis now that you mention it.
Absolutely. So to get your Vitalis, your vitality, your energy up, we want to improve your life. It's our number one concern. This is how we look at and often correction care to make your immune system the best. Our team, that is not only us as your doctor, but you as an active participating owner of your one and only body, identify specific biochemistry malfunctions and then proceed to remove blockages, increase nutrient fixes, and set your ship on the course of good health attainment.
And remember that we offer absolutely free 15-minute consultations with you, your family, friends, or coworkers at Payson Health and Wellness Center. So you can call 928-474-7409 to schedule your free appointment with either myself, Dr. Wyrick, or with Dr. Gear on a Tuesday through a Saturday morning.
And you're going to talk to the receptionist?
Yes.
Very good.
And they are the ones that do the calendar.
They do. So listen up now. Y'all hear me clearly? Do any of the following sound familiar? You're constantly catching colds that won't run their course, dealing with tummy troubles like diarrhea or constipation. Cuts and bruises are slow to heal, or you simply feel tired and sluggish all the time. If so, there's a good chance your immune system's in the gutter. Excuse this rather graphic example, but let's say you're relaxing in your hot tub. You feel thirsty. You reach over for your water bottle, but instead you end up taking a swig from a nearby bottle of hot tub pH balancer. What happens next? Your body immediately seizes up. You experience an intense physiological response as your immune system kicks into gear to purge you of the poison. Now imagine that same physical reaction, but on a constant low-grade level, day after day after day. Dr. Wyrick.
Well, every day we're swimming in an environment full of microtoxins. We've talked about smoke and carbon pollution in our air, chlorine in our tap water, pesticides in our food, as well as the protein of some foods which the body's immune system sees as an invading organism. The IgG reaction is measurable in a blood laboratory test which we use at Payson Health and Wellness Center, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. All of these toxins are assaulting our immune system daily, working it overtime and stressing it out. You don't even notice this assault while it's happening, but eventually you'll be wondering why you feel so fatigued after a solid 9 hours of sleep, or why you have developed rheumatoid arthritis symptoms. Then, what do you do?
Besides the obvious good habits like sleeping well and eating well, you need to give your immune system a special kind of therapy to help reset it after years of toxic assault. Stop eating the foods to which you make IgG antibodies. Eat fruits and vegetables, which do not look like invading organisms, and all the other good lifestyle habits, in addition to making certain your spine does not have any stresses or blockages to proper fluid, that's called plasma, or energy flow, so that your body functions in the most effective manner for your good health.
Well, let me say right here a little bit more about the IgG antibodies. These are made by the body to protect us from foreign proteins like viruses and bacteria. These are a very important part of the immune system when everything in the body is working properly. But sometimes our immune system gets confused and makes IgG antibodies to things that should be recognized by the body as being harmless. For example, good, healthy foods. And I say that with air quotes. Good, healthy foods means different things to different people. When the body makes these kinds of improper IgG antibodies, we develop inflammation. And inflammation leads to swelling, redness, pain, and heat. We can easily recognize inflammation when it is on our skin. But if it is inside our body, our only clue may be malaise or joint pain. Now, many people, including many allopathic doctors like MDs, DOs, and DNPs, confuse IgG antibodies with another kind of antibody made by the body called IgE. When the body has an IgE reaction, the results are often very dramatic, such as your airway swells up and you suffocate. IgE reactions are very obvious and often life-threatening. On the other hand, IgG reactions are subtle, slow, and only make you feel miserable. IgE sensitivities are usually tested by doing a skin scratch test. On the other hand, IgG sensitivities are usually tested by our office by drawing a few drops of blood and sending it to a lab for analysis.
At Payson Health and Wellness Center, we can test for 154 different IgG sensitivities that each individual might have. Then you have to avoid the problem foods.
Everybody is different, so the healthy foods for each person are different. There is no one-size-fits-all diet plan.
Once you have a calm, cool, and collected immune system again, you'll find yourself brimming with all-day energy. Gas, diarrhea, and constipation will become a thing of the past. Your stress levels will plummet, and you'll be more peaceful and worry-free than you felt in a long time.
Call us at Payson Health and Wellness Center at 928-474-7409.
998.
998? When did they change that? Okay, to get your free consultation. Bring your imaging disc, your laboratory reports, and your body with you for our second opinion, as thousands of your very satisfied friends and neighbors have already done. That's 998-474-7409.
Yeah, I think I made a mistake. It's 928, isn't it?
Yes, that's what I recall.
Right. I was wondering who else there is listening.
Oh, that was a test of our audience to see if anyone would call in.
Nobody called in right away to say, hey, that's not the number.
But by the way, we are open to having people call in if you have any questions that you would like for myself or Dr. Gear to address.
And if you do call in, we're going to give you a book. It's called Your Body, the World's Greatest Drugstore, written by Ted Coran, chiropractor.
But if you want to call us while we're on the air, the number for that is, Mike, can you give us the number for calling in to the station?
474-2427.
Okay, thank you for that. And let's go on, Dr. Gear.
So items from our latest To Your Health newsletter. That's the staff of the Dynamic Chiropractic Publishing Company's To Your Health newsletter review more than 30 peer-reviewed journals that publish health-related information every month. Dr. Wyrick, what does peer-reviewed mean?
Well, peer-reviewed means that people who have scientific credentials read other scientists' research reports, and they agree that the method and the conclusions are appropriate.
So when these people at Dynamic Chiropractic Publishing Company find an article that in their opinion is newsworthy to the general public, they interpret it, the medical health science language, into regular people language. Then it's sent out to more than 500,000 families every 2 weeks. What a great deal. All this information and you get it free every 2 weeks. Just send an email to me at Dr. Bob Gear, that's DRBOBGEAR, at drbobgear.com with your first and last name, and I'll enter your email address into the mailing list. Or stop by the office to meet our receptionist, Sherry, and she will enter your email address into the mailing list. No charge, no obligation, and the address is not sold to any other person or company. So, we have a couple of items that I'm going to share with you from our latest To Your Health newsletter. One is Safer with Chiropractic. So whenever you visit a healthcare provider, safety is always a concern. How will that treatment, whether it's a drug, procedure, etc., affect me? Those fears are magnified in elderly patients who can generally handle less physical trauma than their younger counterparts. Well, the statistics don't lie. A recent study in the peer-reviewed journal Spine compared two groups of elderly patients' experiences with chiropractic and medical care, respectively, arriving at an interesting conclusion. Chiropractic is the safer of the two options in terms of the elderly patient likelihood of suffering an injury within 7 days of an office visit. The study evaluated the risk of injury to the head, neck, or trunk after the office visit for chiropractic, spinal manipulation, or evaluation by a primary care physician, the cumulative probability of injury in the chiropractic group, 40 injury incidents per 100,000 subjects. In the primary care group, get this, 143 incidents per 100,000 subjects. The study author's conclusion makes their findings crystal clear. Among Medicare beneficiaries aged 66 to 99 years with an office visit for a neuromuscular problem, risk of injury to the head, neck, or trunk within 7 days was 76% lower among subjects with a chiropractic office visit than among those who saw a primary care physician. That was out of our latest To Your Health newsletter. It came on email, free, to anybody who's signed up. Dr. Wyrick, the next item on that To Your Health newsletter
is life-saving labeling. The gist of this article is that when the FDA required food labels to include more nutrient information, including added sugar, consumers were able to make better food choices, and it's been demonstrated over a 35-year period that the information caused a reduction of new cancer cases and reduced about $1.6 billion in medical costs over a person's lifetime, or over U.S. adults' lifetime. And so this is very important, and I would argue that we need more nutritional information on labels as well. For example, we really should know what the omega-3 and omega-6 content of our fats are, because the omega-3s are very healthy, and omega-6s cause inflammation if the two are out of balance. Historically, scientists say that early humans had about a 1-to-1 mix of omega-3s and omega-6s. That's not true today.
So are you telling everybody to write their congressman and have that done?
That would be a good thing.
Okay. So let's say we were going to visit the greatest drugstore in the world. What would we expect from it? First of all, we would expect it to be able to make any and every drug we would ever need. That would require a large supply of materials because the human body needs thousands of different drugs in order to run properly. Just a partial list would include such drugs as insulin, cortisone, adrenaline, antibiotics, digestive juices, laxatives, sedatives, drugs that raise our blood pressure, drugs that lower our blood pressure, drugs that control our body temperature, drugs that give us energy, drugs necessary for a healthy sex life and pregnancy, drugs to keep our brains healthy and our eyesight keen, etc., etc. The list seems endless. I'll let you in a little secret. Scientists still don't know all the drugs we have in us. They're discovering new ones all the time. All those that I mentioned are made by our bodies. So we would expect the greatest drugstore in the world to give us only the right amount of each drug we need to keep healthy, not too little and not too much. For you see, too much of a drug would upset the delicate balance of chemistry that must be maintained. An imbalance of our body's chemicals could cause too much damage. Too little of a drug would be, well, too little. And that would also hurt our body's chemical balance. The amount we receive must be just right. You know, that's the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and you got to have it just right. A good example would be insulin, which is produced in the pancreas and which helps us to digest sugar. Too much insulin would cause a disease called hypoglycemia, which would make us weak and dizzy. Too little would cause diabetes, which strangely enough would make us weak and dizzy and could kill us. Many other powerful drugs are needed, like the ones that destroy cancer cells or that fight infections. The wrong amount of a drug like that could also kill us. That's how important the right amount of a drug can be. I'm gonna tell
And
you
you're
a little
talking
story.
about drugs that are naturally made in the body here, primarily.
Yes, they are. That's the world's greatest drugstore. We have a booklet on that. It's available here at KMOG as well as at our office. You can get it at no charge, and it has all of this information in it that you can share with your friends on how to make your body work ideally for you. And what is the drugs you got? Now, there was a patient a number of years ago, or the person who became a patient of the MDs, which was good. However, I'm going to tell you a little story. In 1986, Keith Wasung was on top of the world. At age 22, he had just won the All-Navy weightlifting championships and had set a national drug-free record in the bench press. His full-time job became to lift weights and compete, and he loved it. He attended college at night and did a number of exhibitions and talks in the community. He had minor celebrity status, both in the naval community and in his city. Life was good for him. Shortly after returning from a competition tour, and get this, remember he was 22 years old, I began to experience some sinus headaches, and my training started to plateau a bit. How many of you have experienced that type of thing? Your energy levels slack off a little when you get a sinus headache. So he kept training journals since he started lifting at age 14 in 1978, and he tracked his progress very carefully. The headaches were not bad, just annoying. He went to the Navy dispensary and was given some medications. The medications worked like magic, except they gave him nuclear diarrhea. He went back to the doctor and was given drugs to stop that. So the diarrhea went away, but then he experienced severe dehydration, and he was admitted to the hospital. After many tests, he walked out with 3 more prescriptions. His health rapidly began to spiral downward, and soon he was spending his days at the hospital, going from one doctor to the next. Within a month, he was taking 18 drugs a day, which amounted to about 80 individual pills. He quickly became homebound and disabled, unable to work, drive a car, or really do much of anything. The only food he could keep down was applesauce, and sometimes apple cobbler. Most nights he would get a blanket and a pillow and just sleep with a pillow on the toilet, because the dry heaves would begin around 1 in the morning and last until the sun came up. On good nights, the heaves were 4 minutes apart. On bad nights, they were 2 minutes apart. He went from a solid 220 pounds to around 165 pounds. He looked like death warmed over. This went on for over a year, and most of it is still a blur to him. He's had to have someone drive him any time he needed to see the doctor. Fortunately, he had good friends in this regard. I saw all kinds of doctors and was even seen by one of President Reagan's doctors at Bethesda, Maryland. That's the Navy facility there. No one really had an answer for what was going on except that my immune system was failing. Diagnosis of Epstein-Barr and severe chronic fatigue syndrome were discussed as possibilities. He had a meeting with the head of the Naval Hospital in Charleston in the summer of 1987. That's just a year after he had won the All-Navy weightlifting championship and had set a national drug-free record in the bench press. He was brought into the office of the head of the Naval Hospital in Charleston, and he was told by that doctor that he should get his affairs in order because he felt I only had a few months to live. Isn't that amazing? The news was actually a relief. How many of you have experienced that kind of relief once you get a doctor to tell you you're going to die? I wanted to die and end the misery. I had a friend drive me to a mall later that week to buy gifts for my family for the following Christmas, knowing I was probably not going to be alive. Now get this. While in a B. Dalton bookstore, a man asked me if I was okay. He realized that I could only walk maybe 15 to 20 steps before I had to stop and rest. I said I was fine. because I had gotten tired of telling everyone the story. This guy persisted a bit, and he told me he was a doctor, and that maybe he could help me. I told him I had seen some of the best doctors in the world, and then he told me he was a chiropractor. I think I laughed for the first time in over a year. I told him internal health problems, not neck and back pain, which was the limit of my views on chiropractic at that time at age 23. He persisted that I come to his clinic, and about this time my friend offered to drive me to the clinic the next day. So I agreed with absolutely no intention of going to this quack's office. On the drive home, my friend said something like, "Well, you should give it a shot. What do you have to lose?" I agreed to go. I went to the office the next day and did the whole new patient process. The doc brought me into the exam room and began his exam. I was about as skeptical as you could be, when all of a sudden he says, "Hey, Keith, did you have a bedwetting problem as a kid?" Wow, how in the world did he know that? I had a classic bedwetting case for most of my childhood for 4 to 5 nights a week. I never spent a night with a friend and grew out of it by the time I was 15 to 16 years old. My parents spent all kinds of money on therapists and treatments, but how could this quack have known about that? He told me he could tell from examining my lumbar spine and talked about the bladder and the nerves. He now had my attention. If he pulled that one out of his butt, well, it was a good one. He adjusted me the first day and sent me home with instructions to return. I woke up the next morning with a stiff and sore neck. Actually, my entire back was sore. Not severe pain, but just very sore. I knew this guy was a fraud. I thought to myself, he hurt me yesterday, and today he's going to fix me up? Sorry, don't buy it. No more chiropractic visits for me. I shaved, showered, got dressed, and as I was walking down the hall to the kitchen, I was hit with a ton of bricks. I had just slept through the entire night for the first time in about 15 months. Had just showered, shaved, dressed, and was not wiped out with fatigue. I was even a bit hungry, so I made some scrambled eggs, which I love, and had been unable to eat for over a year. I sat down on the couch and waited for breakfast to come back up. It never did. So I continued getting adjusted and flushed the meds within the first week. It was not short-term miraculous, but each day I got a bit stronger and do more things. It was a huge victory to be able to walk to the mailbox and get the mail. Within 2 weeks, I was driving again. Within 2 months, I was back in the gym, training, and ended up far surpassing my previous lifts. But I could not figure out what chiropractic had done for me. I would ask the doc and got sort of vague answer. I ended up going to chiropractic orientations at other offices in the area in hopes of figuring this all out. But I was disappointed in that all the new patient orientations I attended were spinal hygiene classes. How to lift right, bend your knees, drink water, etc. I could not find much at the library or on periodical microfiches either. Most of what I read tagged chiropractic as being somewhat effective for neck and back pain, and that was it. Finally, the doc gave me some old, musty, smelly books with a weird green color to them and told me that maybe I would find my answers in them. He had never actually read them. The first volume was Bigness of the Fellow Within by B.J. Palmer. I remember reading it and thinking this guy was really out in left field. The more I read it, the more sense it made, and I began going to the medical library here in Charleston and reading volumes of anatomy and physiology books like Guyton's and Harrison's. I saw this incredible congruence between the books on how the body actually worked and Palmer's writings. Eventually it sort of clicked in my brain, and I retired from competitive lifting in order to focus on communicating the chiropractic message. I don't always like sharing the message, but I don't feel that I have the right not to. If a person rejects the message, that's fine with me. At that point, they are no longer my responsibility, and I can move on. I don't play golf or softball. My free time is spent sharing the chiropractic message. I do between 250 and 300 talks each year on chiropractic and plan on doing so as long as I'm on the earth. I owe that much to the chiropractic profession. That's quite a story, isn't it? From the Brink of Death by Keith Wasson. Keith became a chiropractor. A lot of chiropractors became chiropractors because of similar experiences in their lives.
And many naturopaths also became naturopaths because a naturopath helped them when no one else could.
Exactly right. You know, I went to school with a number of people from various professions. We had an adult type medical school. One of the students was a pharmacist. And I said to him, "You're a pharmacist. You got a great profession. How come you're here to learn to be a chiropractor?" This was what he told me. He said, "You know, I saw patients coming to me and I filled their prescriptions for pain medication, for their back pain, their neck pain, or for other problems that they had. And as they came back, I had to give them stronger and stronger medication. Stronger and stronger. Then finally, quite a few of them stopped coming in over time, and when I'd see them 6 months or a year or 2 years later, I'd say to them, "Hey, what happened? What's going on? How are you doing?" They say, "Oh, you know that pain I used to have? I went to a chiropractor and I don't have it anymore." He said to me, after that happened for a couple of years, I decided, you know, I'm in the wrong profession, feeding people these drugs for something that a chiropractor could fix. Here's this guy, Keith Wasson, age 23, ending up with 60 different medications. Unbelievable. 18 drugs a day, 80 individual pills a day. And all he needed was some chiropractic manipulation. You know, how does that work, you know? I know exactly how it works. You've got to have blood flow. And if your spine's twisted, you don't get blood flow. I see people all the time with all kinds of problems. Things you would never expect that it had anything to do with the spine. But as soon as we fix the spine, those problems disappear. It's not just aches and pains. It's not just headaches. It's not just arm and leg pains. It's intestinal problems. It's diabetes. It's heart disease. It's lung disease. All kinds of malfunctions. Because as we were telling you a little bit earlier in the show, those mitochondria have got to get their nutrition. And if your intestinal tract's not working right, they're not going to get their nutrition. Dr. Wyrick, why is tea good for blood pressure?
Well, tea is a antioxidant, and it also has certain proteins in it that act, or compounds in it that activate ion channels that cause potassium ions to flow in and out of cells in a special way. And this helps control blood pressure. So it's quite comparable in power to many of the pharmaceutical drugs.
So a full article on this is in our To Your Health newsletter that just came out. That's one of the items that was in it. We have another item called the Basics of Balance in the To Your Health newsletter. How many of you have balance problems? You know, balance is easy to take for granted. After all, our every movement relies upon it in some fashion. Most of the time, we only notice balance when it fails us, like when we trip for no reason, or find ourselves leaning slightly to the left or right while standing. Actually, without balance, we couldn't do much at all, which is why it's so important to build a foundation of proper balance, particularly as we age. So, Dr. Wyrick, What is it about our nervous system that gives us the information from our feet, our knees, our hips, even our spine?
Well, the fancy word is we have proprioceptors, which are special nerves that sense the position of our joints and how much pressure different parts of our body are experiencing, so that the brain can properly balance left and right, front and back. That's one input that our brain needs.
So as balance is an inborn characteristic that starts developing shortly after birth, as eyesight improves, the muscles of the neck develop as the child explores their new world and eventually is able to lift their head, which begins the development of the forward curve in the neck. This is followed by creeping and crawling, during which the curve in the lower back is formed. This is all necessary for the ultimate act of balance to occur. Standing. Standing is followed by falling, over and over again. As the brain is flooded with information regarding where we are in space, all this information ultimately is used to initiate the first steps of walking, however uncoordinated they may be. You can see the efficiency develop, and soon the walking turns into running. We see a few children who've learned a little bit about their activity and balance, and they get up on a couch or a bed, and they take a header off of that couch or bed. Dr. Wyrick, we've seen those children, haven't we?
Yes, I think I'm talking to one right now. Didn't you do something similar? A little bit older, but didn't you take a header off of a trampoline?
Oh, yes, as a freshman in high school. Stupid boy. You know, we men were boys, were once, and all of us, I think almost 100% of us, did foolish things.
Yes, but most of us live to tell about it.
Yeah, luckily God didn't want me back then. I should have broken my neck. In fact, I think I did break part of it.
Well, a broken neck is just a matter of breaking one or more of the vertebrae that are in your neck. And sometimes it's not even obvious unless you have a very careful examination, including x-rays, whether there's damage.
You know, in this book, Your Body, the World's Greatest Drugstore, we were talking a little bit about things going on there, and we had some ideas, and too much and too little and that sort of thing of the drugs. We need careful directions to take the right amount of the drug. Our bodies tell us that, tell us exactly what's needed. And the demand for the drug varies hour to hour, even second to second. Dr. Wyrick, we've got tests that look at the urine of a person over 4 different times in the day.
Yes, we have many different urine tests. The one that you are talking about looks at how our adrenal glands are functioning in their circadian rhythm, which we've talked about on a previous show. Circadian rhythm is how the body hormones fluctuate throughout the 24-hour clock cycle. And if that's messed up, then we have all kinds of problems. We might not sleep well at night. We might have very low energy during our waking hours that we're supposed to be working. All of these problems can be adrenal problems.
Yeah, your own body does all the wonderful things in making the drugs at the right time and the right amount. Makes every single one of the thousands of drugs you need. Makes them in the right amount, the right time, at a moment's notice, and it's free of charge. It does it all better than any regular drugstore in the world could. And that's what Keith Wasson found out when he went to a chiropractor and got his spine fixed. His 18 drugs went down the toilet in 2 weeks. He started coming back at it. He became better at weightlifting than he had been previously to ever having chiropractic care. So, most things happen without your conscious control. You don't have to tell your stomach, produce 2 ounces of digestive juice, or tell your pancreas, please make a 1/4 ounce of insulin. Your heartbeat, blood pressure, temperature, and breathing are controlled without your conscious awareness. You can have high blood pressure in a second if your subconscious mind has anxiety that you're not even aware of. You don't have to think about running your body because along with the ability to create all the chemicals you need and the ability to run all your organs, you have within you an intelligence. We call that intelligence inborn or innate intelligence. Everyone and every living thing has innate intelligence.
Also sometimes called the vis natura.
That's right. That's a Latin term, isn't it?
Yes. The natural life or natural energy.
So whether you're a college professor, which you are, Dr. Wyrick, or you never finished high school or never even went to school, this intelligence is the same. The innate intelligence is the greatest doctor in the world. It tells the greatest drugstore in the world what to do. It writes the prescription, so to speak. Now, how does it do that? Messages from your brain go across your nerves to all parts of your body. Billions and billions of nerves. They go to every part of you, carrying vital messages and also conducting the vital energy of life itself. Instructions are sent along your nerves from your innate intelligence to every part of your body, telling your body what to do to remain healthy. These instructions tell your glands and organs and cells what chemicals to make, what parts need repairing, what invaders need to be destroyed, and where cancer cells may be lurking. You know, we're going to be bringing you a lot more information this next week and the next show. Health is within your innate intelligence communicating with all the parts of your body. Mike, you know that everything we talk about is how the body works. It's all biology. It's all what God created, or whatever you want to call God, the creator of the universe. Everything here works in a certain methodical way. It's classical. Dr. Wyrick, you've learned a whole lot in chemistry. I learned a whole lot in structural medicine. And working together, we have a great program to bring people back to health. Mike, thank you so much for having us here. And we're going to go through this again next week and do the best job we can to get information to people in a manner that makes sense to them and that they can understand and use in their lives every day.
You've been listening to Doctor's House Call, aired every Tuesday afternoon from 5 till 6 p.m. To call Dr. Gear after the show during his business hours at Payson Health and Wellness Center, 801 East Highway 260, call 474-7409 or go to his website, drbobgear.com. That number again, 474-7409.